Last week we started with a deep dive on law of attraction specifically. What is it? How does it work? How do we use it effectively? How do we use it to our advantage versus it working against us, which is common and a common reason why, maybe on that scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe in the law of attraction? Maybe a reason for those lower scores, or why people don't buy into it, because they believe, well, I'm trying to manifest things and the opposite is happening, or it's not happening. Well, that's not really the case. A law of attraction is working very well. It's just responding to the attraction, the vibration that is going against the thing that you're asking for. When we talk about unasking, the law of attraction is always at work. I want to give you two counterparts to this, two enhancements that's going to really help you apply the law of attraction even greater, and also give you a little more perspective as far as, this goes deeper than just trying to manifest outcomes and results in our life. But also for, managing and dealing with the people in our lives, and, their attractions. So the law of attraction, that was the first in what we call the 3 laws of reality creation. And so, when we're in this new age kind of realm, which, side note, we always chuckle at that, it's called new age now, where these concepts, these philosophies have been around for, thousands of years. And I mentioned last time, when you look at the schools of thought out there, and that really the law of attraction fits in with any school of thought, science, quantum physics, biblical, Buddhist, whatever your belief system is, they're all kind of saying the same thing. And law of attraction is designed to fit in to any of those schools of thought. We covered briefly last time, how does this fit in with prayer, and what does the law of attraction mean with prayers? So when we're talking about new age, it really should be called old age. But again, if you're not a fan, or you get hung up on these kind of new agey kind of concepts, just know that my role is to present this in a way that fits in with your belief system as well. That's the role of the inevitable you. I'm not trying to preach anything, but really present this to create value for you. So finding, matching to the things that you like about this, finding the value that you can, and mismatching or seeing where, or asking great questions with the challenges that arise. For example, in the 3 steps to the law of attraction, God, that's always a typo. Ask, what's your request? What's your intention? Believing that that this thing is possible. And then instead of receive, which is what The Secret presents it as, really it's about taking inspired action. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into what does receive mean in one of these 3 laws here. But that's the 3 steps to the law of attraction, just to recap a little bit. It's always at work, responding to whatever your ask is, whether it's something you want or something you don't want. And know that this is really just the first step, buying into this as a law, just like the law of gravity, that it's always at work. A human never just occasionally floats off the planet. It's a law, it's not a principle. And the next 2 are increasing exponentially in power with your application of, or understanding of, these 3 laws. So the second one, science of deliberate creation. Now, this really fits into more of what I'll call the foundational components, the basic TIY, inevitable you toolbox. When we talk about NLP or neuro linguistic programming, really paying attention to the software, the neural software that's running, how your belief system, how your thoughts, how your language is all creating your reality. And so when we really get deliberate about that, when you believe that you really are creating reality based on your thoughts, based on the language you're using, the habitual sentences, the stories that you're telling, because it's always, the data is going to be the data. The data is the same. It's the software that interprets it that is creating the meaning behind the data, and the conclusions and the beliefs about who you are, your beliefs about the world. That is reality creation. And so when we go into, our other tool boxes, be it the New Year Revolution, standard goal setting, planning, and keeping, SMART goals. What did we recently cover? Masculine, feminine, even is another great toolbox. Really getting a great understanding of your software and how you're creating results. And now we can, change belief systems. We can change the meanings that are being created to create a different reality. This is more of that deliberate action that is taken day in, day out, and really being diligent and paying attention to the thoughts that are running and using your journal, on a daily or near daily basis, being conscious about your role in the results that you're producing or not producing. So, your application of this combined with your intention really maximizes the results and the outcomes with your law of attraction. So just know that with this second point, this is pretty much all we're doing in all of these calls here, giving you more tools, giving you more consciousness to more deliberately create. Now, step 3, and this is really the most powerful, and it's also the most challenging and the toughest to do, to apply. So there's 2 parts to it. First is that there's never a shortage of energy or interactions within the system, what I'm calling, the world, the planet that we live on, the universe. There's no shortage of energy that ever invalidates the first 2 laws. Meaning that when you make a request for abundance, let's say, the system or God or again, whatever your belief system, doesn't hear the request and just say, no, you know what, we don't have enough abundance here and it's just not your time, your abundance has to wait, or it's just not going to happen for you. The system's always responding to the request, so back to asking versus unasking, it'll hear abundance and it'll dedicate, resources to make that possible, as long as your energy, your request is in place, you're asking, you're not resisting, which would be the antonym here to allowing. As long as you're not resisting, and we go back here up to the science deliberate creation, as long as there's no barriers or challenges within your own current software load that's not allowing, it'll provide the resources, it'll open up opportunities, it'll open up doors, it'll, it's the Jack Canfield example. You see the National Enquirer on the newsstand, you talk to the woman, you meet a new person, right? So not only are you activating your reticular activation system, you're not only are you enhancing your deliberate creation mechanisms, it's also a request to the system to allocate resources. So there's never a shortage. The system has enough resources for everyone on the planet to get what they want. Love, money, health, whatever. There's no shortage. So that's the first part. The second part is, to the extent that you pay attention, this is really important, to the extent that you pay attention to someone else's first two laws, or first their attractions, they automatically become yours. I'll say that again. To the extent that you pay attention to someone else's attraction, it automatically becomes yours. And here's where it's very, very challenging. Let's say, for instance, the economy is, or, the, terrorists are, creating terror. We just went through a pandemic, COVID. To the extent that you're paying attention to these things, and if it's a story of, the economy is bad, the economy is tanking, I can't get ahead, or, terrorists are creating terror, therefore I'm paying attention to terror, COVID, sickness, and it could be a friend, it could be a family member. If you've got a spouse, a child, a friend, and they're going through a tough time, they're experiencing some pain, you're emotionalizing, you're paying attention to the pain in the world, guess what that's an attraction for? So this is where it becomes very challenging, when it's someone you care about and you say, well, how am I supposed to, manifest and attract joy when the person I love, the person I care so much about is in pain? Yeah, that's quite the conundrum, isn't it? Because I just told you, to the extent that you're paying attention to their pain, you're holding that vibration, you're holding that focus, back to our first law, you pay attention to it, it's an attraction. Well, how do I hold joy for someone's pain? We have tools for this. Whether it's a classic example we love to use, the butterfly cocoon tool. When a caterpillar forms its chrysalis and it's undergoing a very, to us, a painful transformation process, it's going to liquefy itself. It's going through this intense transformational experience. And then, once it's actually, transformed into the butterfly within the chrysalis and it's starting to emerge, we use a old, I don't know what you'd call it, a proverb or story, but, a man sees this little butterfly starting to emerge through the very tiny opening of the chrysalis, and sees it struggling, sees it's trying to get its way out, and he, goes over, takes out his pocket knife, just cuts a little bit of the opening, just to help the insect out, give it a little more room so it can emerge. Butterfly comes out, falls to the ground, flaps around, and ends up dying there. Now, why would just cutting that little opening or helping that butterfly out a little bit cause it to die like that? I know one or two of you have heard this example before. There's a very specific reason why it has to squeeze its way through that opening because it just was in a very dark, sticky, wet environment. This is a creature of flight. It needs to wring all the moisture, all the stuff off of its wings so that it can fly. So this is it's our great metaphor for transformation because, yeah, it can be. It oftentimes is a very painful process. We use our broken leg limper tool a lot. You break your leg, you do the rehab, builds back stronger than it was before. So there's lessons in these experiences, there's growth. So can you love someone's painful experience? Can you hold joy in your heart? Love them and trust that they're going to get whatever they need in this moment, in this lifetime, to grow as a human, as a soul. So back to our art of allowing, there's two pieces of this. One, it's allowing other people's attractions, other people's realities, other people's journeys, and you don't have to, pay attention to it or emotionalize the same pain or pay attention to that attraction. You can hold your own attraction. You can hold joy and love in your heart for these very tough areas because notice it says the art of allowing. This is not the science. This is a very emotional place, EQ centered place. This up here is more of your IQ, even though we do go in a lot of heart, centered things and emotional toolboxes. But in this art of allowing, it's really an understanding of your own emotions, of your own, vibrational manifestations and emotional places that you're at. And, being in a place. So one is allowing other people's journeys. The other piece is allowing the outcomes to happen for you. So when you have a manifestation, when you put it, in motion and you just allow it, you get out of the way, you allow the universe, the system to provide you the resources, provide you the opportunities versus trying to force your way through and so focused on an outcome. Because let me give you an example or another metaphor. I said if the request is to, for abundance, if that's your manifestation, well, it's not really tied to a specific outcome. And the system's going to hear abundance, so it'll provide that in ways that maybe you can't even imagine. If you put in a request for $1 million, dollars or a winning lottery ticket, let's say, well, now you're competing with, millions of other people that also have their manifestations at work for that same lottery ticket. So sometimes to really focus on a very specific outcome and wanting it created a certain way becomes a form of resistance. You're not allowing the real manifestation, what you're really after, because it's not really about the, lottery ticket. It's about the maybe financial freedom, that sense of joy, the excitement of winning, that lottery ticket. It's really after that emotional place you're looking for, right? The joy, the happiness, the passion, all these great towards pattern emotional places. So back to the extent that you pay attention to other people's attraction, it becomes yours.